Good looking guy. So we're also hosting everybody for Shabbat here at the YEHUDI Up this weekend. Just can't wait for So good, so good, so good. I also just want to point out that we're lucky tonight. He's not always here. Where is he? Where's Rabbi Stillerman? I just want to give a thank you to Rabbi Stillerman. Where is Rabbi Stillerman? He's here. So I just want all of you to know that I have been working in Miami doing campus outreach for 12 years, and I started when I was 14. And this man, Rabbi Stillerman, who is the CEO of YEHUDI, came into town and blew it up. We never, in 12 years, never had a center. In 12 years, never had this many staff members working together. He is literally changing the face of Judaism in Miami. Rabbi Stillerman, please accept this round of applause because you're an amazing CEO. An amazing CEO. He's a visionary person. If you can get close to him, get close to his wife. Anytime they'll give you is precious, and you should definitely get a Shabbat invitation from him and from everybody else. Okay, so without further ado, is Mr. Diener in my? I think he heard me. So we're very, very privileged, and we're very, very happy that Mr. Bob Diener, the co-founder of Hotels.com and the co-founder of GetARoom.com, a brilliant man who I once, he doesn't know that I heard this. He said, I just think of the ideas and then I find other people to execute them. And I don't know if this is accurate, but I find other people to execute them. And then these huge companies, and that's how you live the dream. So we all want to live the dream, and we all want to be successful in every area of our life. And I think it will be rare that you will meet an individual, a Jewish individual, who has both built amazing and successful brands, also who takes the time out of his life to study Torah, and by occupying yourself with both material success, but primarily Torah learning, you really set yourself up not just for material success, but for success in every area of your life. And so we asked Mr. Diener to come and really tell us not only, how do you create a successful business, but really even more so, how do you create a successful life? Mr. Bob Diener. Somebody has a phone here they wanted to record. I need to know the code. Or you need to come up here.
1949.
Gary?
1949.
1949, which is the year Gary's father was born. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that introduction. So we have a tradition in my home. Every Friday night we have a Shabbat dinner, and we invite a lot of people over. And we go around the room, and everybody talks about the good news of the week. So we went around the room, and it was my turn. This was maybe about 2 years ago. And I said that my new company, GetARoom.com, we finally reached a milestone, and we're reaching our metrics, and we're getting to the next level. So my mother, who was a couple of seats away, she says, well, how did you know what to do? You didn't go to business school. I went to college. I majored in economics, but I didn't get my MBA. I went to law school. You never really worked or interned anywhere. I'm sure most of you have had internships for the summer. That's the big thing now. But you didn't intern anywhere in any business. I practiced law for 2 years, and I had a part-time business, and I went to it full-time. Just how did you know what to do? So I thought about it for a minute, and I said, Mom, I have to thank you and Dad. It's really all because of you. She says, what do I have to do with it? I said, well, you sent me to a Jewish day school, and I got a great Jewish education. And that's really all I knew when I got to law school and started in business. And I believe that it's the principles that I learned in Jewish day school that led to much of my success. So she says, what do you mean? So let me give you some examples. So when I started out in business, I find most people come to me with business plans all the time, and they're sure they have the greatest things in sliced bread, right? And what do they want to do? They said they're going to build this site, and they're going to make all this money. I said, what's your revenue model? They said, we're going to sell ads. That's what most people want to do on their website. They want to sell ads. I said, okay, who's going to buy the ads? They say airlines are going to buy them, cruise lines are going to buy them. I said, how are you going to get the traffic? And all of a sudden they turn red. Right? They haven't thought about traffic. Well, we'll buy ads on Google. That's almost always the answer. And I said, do you have any idea how much it costs to buy ads on Google? They turn red again. They have absolutely no idea. Very few people are successful in business that way. So the first thing I learned, in Jewish day school, is due diligence. It's that you take everything, and this is right through Talmud study. You take everything and you tear it apart. And you really analyze it. You don't just accept an answer, you ask why. Right? That's the Jewish way, you ask why. And through learning Talmud, the discourse back and forth, there's actually a big article on this written, I think it was in the Jerusalem Post last night. Why Israel has more startups than any other company, any other country in the world, other than the United States, especially per capita, and why they're so successful. And it was actually written by Naftali Bennett, who's one of the ministers in the Israeli government. And he says the reason is largely because of Talmudic study. When they grow up, it's part of their culture. And so I believe that's a big part of my success. It's not just starting the business, but doing the due diligence, right? Doing the homework, really tearing it apart, really analyzing it, assessing, is this really a good business? Right? And we have a very famous Jewish saying that we're going to say in a couple of weeks. Right? Why is this night different from all other nights? Right? We all know that. So my question in business is, or ask anyone starting a business, how is your business different from every other business that's out there? Now, amazingly, most people that want to be entrepreneurs don't think about that. So people come in and ask them, well, have you looked at this company? Have you looked at this company that's in space? And they never heard of them before because they didn't do their homework. So the first principle of Judaism that I believe led to my success was really doing your homework and doing your due diligence. So anyways, I gave a whole litany of reasons why I thought my Jewish day school education led to my success at Hotels.com and other companies. And another friend of mine, they were so, Bob, why don't you write a book about it? I said, you know what, that's a great idea, I'm going to do it. So here it is. So I'll talk a little bit about it. It's available on Amazon. But I talk about what I call the biblical secrets to business success. So what else? Customer service. So when you start a new company, get into business, what's your standard of care? Right? How many people here have traveled on an airline or stayed at a hotel recently or rented a car? Almost everyone. Right? How was the service if you had a problem and you had to call in or email about a service issue? Horrendous, right? So what's the right standard of care? Now, a lot of companies, they hire consultants, they have long weekend retreats, and they discuss standards of care, and they put together big, very thick manuals. So for me, it was really very simple. Because what's the fundamental principle of Judaism? You remember a rabbi named Hillel? And he stood on one foot and he said, what is Judaism all about? Teach it to me in 1 foot. What is it?
Do unto others.
Do unto others as you want them to do unto you, right? So that was what I knew. So I taught my customer care department. I said, no manuals, no books, no retreats. You have one standard. Put yourself in the shoes of your customer. And you think it's whatever you believe is a reasonable solution to the problem, That's how you should handle it. And if it's not reasonable, you say no. But the standard of care that I set up at my initial company, I was originally in the airline business, that I did with Hotels.com, and I do with my company now at GetARoom.com. That's our standard. And we've been known, every company I've run has been known to have the best customer care in the travel industry. And that's why. Because it's a simple principle that I learned in Jewish day school. All right, what else? Disclosures. What is the right level of disclosure? So the classic example is you go to the grocery store and you're buying, let's say you're buying strawberries. And they look great on the outside, right? They're plump, juicy, and red. You get home, what happens? They're all spoiled in the middle, right? Because they put the good ones on top. Right, you go online, you buy something. So I went online and I bought printer cartridges. I was shopping for them. They're pretty, you know, has an HP printer and you have to replace the cartridge. They're pretty expensive, right? So I found a place that was a third of the price. So I bought a couple of them. I get them, I put them in, and they smear all over the place. Right? So I sent an email that, you know, they're defective. And they said, well, sorry, sir, they're non-refundable. I said, what do you mean they're non-refundable? He says, well, it says on the website they're non-refundable. I said, show me where. I actually ended up calling him. So it was somewhere that if you click the terms and conditions, it was like on the third page, it was tiny print, I could barely see it. Is that a true level of due diligence? No, so there's a fundamental principle of Judaism, and it's called don't put a stumbling block before the blind. And I learned this when I studied Bible, when I studied Torah. It's in Leviticus chapter 19. It says don't put a stumbling block before the blind, which means don't try to hide something. It means you should do disclosure. So I have a very simple principle at all my companies. And the principle is that we disclose everything. Not only do we disclose, but we do it in bold. We do it the first time you see a price. We tell you there's a, for example, a resort fee. We take the cancellation policy. We tell you exactly what it is. We tell you how much you'll be subject to charge if you cancel. We do it on the second page before you accept, and we put it in big and bold. And then we give it to you on your confirmation, big and bold, online. And we email it to you again. See the opportunity to cancel it if for some reason you didn't understand it. So that's the level of care that we do in our company. But most companies in the travel industry, and in really any other industry, do exactly the opposite. And I believe the difference between a company that has a strong level of care and that is honest in their due diligence. Consumers like to do business with companies that are honest. And that's how you build a long-term business. So a lot of businesses take shortcuts. Think about company. Anyone hear of Enron? Anyone hear of WorldCom? You know, WorldCom was like the AT&T of the future, right? It was going to be the Verizon of the future. Well, they cut a lot of corners, and now where are they? Gone. Right, they're gone, right? Think about the companies that are out there that are successful. Taking on retail, so many companies have gone out of business. The big company that's still around is Walmart. So you buy something at Walmart, for example, can you return it?
Yes.
They're great in returns, right? There are all these other companies that are out there that competed with Walmart. And what happened when you walked in to return something? Sorry, sir, it's not refundable. Sorry, man, we don't, it's not refundable, and we're not going to even give you a credit to purchase something else. So the companies that are honest with their customers, and this comes from Judaism, because in Judaism we learn to be honest in your business dealings. It's a fundamental principle of Judaism. In fact, there's a very famous Talmud that says, on your final day of judgment, right, you've gone through life, and your final days, you're going to have a heavenly court hearing. What's the first thing they're going to ask you? Anybody have any idea? It's a very famous Talmud. It's Talmud Shabbat 31a. Anybody know?
Were you honest in business?
Right. So this famous Talmudic discussion says that at the end of your day when you're judged, the one question they're going to ask you, right? It's not how many times you went to synagogue. It's not how many times you put on tefillin. Not that you shouldn't do those things. But that's not the question they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you, were you honest in your business dealings? Why? Anybody have an idea why? Why would that be the first question you're asked? Now this is judging your life, right? You went through life at the end of your day. This is how Judaism evaluates your life. Were you honest in your business dealings? And the reason is because it's so tempting to cheat when you have a monetary gain. Everybody wants to make another dollar. Everybody wants a nicer car. Everybody wants a nicer house. And so people have great temptation. It's just human nature. If people see an opportunity to take advantage, the human nature, or we'll say the evil inclination, it's called the Yetzer Hara, tries to convince you to take advantage of the other person. And so, in Judaism teaches that the real test of somebody's character is, can they overcome huge temptation? And there's no bigger temptation than temptation in a business setting. So if you can overcome that, if you can be honest in your business dealings, then you've passed the test of character. And that's what Judaism teaches. So I teach my employees that whatever you do, you need to be above board. And you need to be honest with your customers. And you may lose some business, that's okay. But we're going to treat the customers right. We're going to be honest with them. We're going to be fair with them. And in the long run, we're going to succeed. What else does Judaism teach us? Anybody here? What does Judaism teach us about volunteer work? What's the concept? Say it a little louder. Tikkun olam. Right? Fundamental principle of Judaism is Tikkun olam. It's that basically we're here for a higher purpose and a higher mission. And one of our main goals in life should be to leave this world in a better place than when we got here. And it's not just a non-business setting. It applies to the business setting. So what does that mean? So the way we approach business is that we need to be good citizens. It's called social entrepreneurship. Anyone here taking business courses? Okay, at a lot of campuses now, they teach social entrepreneurship. A lot of it is about not only making a profit, but how can you help the community? What can you do in your business setting to make the community better? So let me give you some examples of things that we do. So we have community day. In my companies, every employee is required on company pay to spend one day in the community. Some go to beach cleanup, some go to an old age home, some will deliver food, some of the food banks. But everybody is required on company pay to do something one day for the community. So my last company was public, and when you're public, you're under amazing scrutiny. Every quarter there's these conference calls, and you have to talk about your earnings. And so some of my investors used to give me a hard time. I said, Bob, how can you do that? How can you take a day out of the productivity of your employees and basically you're paying them for an extra day? So my response to that was that not only are we going to continue to do it, not only are we doing it because it's the right thing to do, but our employees come back energized, so much more productive. They feel so good about themselves because they donated to the community, that they give back to the company, if they continue to give back to the community, and they are so much more productive than they would otherwise have been. Something else that we do, matching funds. So if our employees can donate to a charity, we will match up to a certain point. So what does that do? It encourages our employees to be charitable. It makes them charitable. It makes us charitable. And the employees feel so good about their position in the company. It's not they look good, right? They look good to the charity that they're involved, that they care about. It could be something to do with their kids, something to do with their family, something that they care about. So now their donation is doubled. So now they brought in a donation, and they brought their company's donation. And so again, it makes them feel good. It makes them so much more productive. And our customers hear about these things, and they like to do business with companies that help the community. And so these are all concepts that I learned in Jewish day school. And these are all concepts that even though I didn't get my MBA, and I didn't intern in any business, just by my Jewish education, these are fundamental things that I believe these are some of the major principles that led to my success at our various companies. So I know a lot of you have been asking me questions as I walked in, and I want to leave time for Q&A also. But I had about 7 or 8 questions about my current company. So my current company is called GetAroom.com. And people say, after I sold Hotels.com about 10 years ago, and I decided to launch, I had a 5-year non-compete. My non-compete was up. And I decided to launch a new company. And people said, Bob, are you crazy? Sit on the beach, right? Go travel to Europe. Why are you launching a new company? You nuts? So my answer to them was, I did it for a few reasons. And I'll tell you a little about what we do. But the first reason was my kids were young, and I wanted them to see how a business is run and developed and started from scratch. And I used to have testers on my website. And what I would do is I would tell my kids, I said, we did load testing. I said, go to your social networks, get every friend you can, testing on GetAroom.com. Here's a mock credit card. Whoever books the most rooms in the next 2 hours gets an iPad. All of a sudden, there are thousands of people booking on GetAroom.com to get the iPad. The next reason I did it is because in the business setting, you have the opportunity to meet people. You have the opportunity not only to succeed in business, but also to do good things with it. And so, at GetAroom.com, we give our proceeds to charity, to tzedakah, so it helps our foundation. But also, I walk in every day and I feel good. Because if the company's doing well, I know I have more funds to give to charity. And it makes coming in every day, gives me a purpose. So not only am I coming to make a profit, the profit's not going to me, the profit's not going in my pocket, but the profit's going to a pool that we use to give to good causes. And so that's really the main reason why I did it. And so people say, well, how is this company different than the other company, right? That's what I started out with. Right? Manishtana halayla hazeh mikol levad. So we created some fundamental new ways to book hotel rooms. Because when I sold Hotels.com, and we were one of the first sites on the internet, and we really created a new way to book hotels. So, but by the time I sold it, by the time I started the new company, almost everywhere you went, prices were the same, right? And anybody shop prices? They're usually the same everywhere, right? It's called rate parity. So I figured out a way around rate parity. And it's called an unpublished rate program that we create. It's called a VIP program. We have 120 million members in our VIP program right now. You can't join. You can't buy membership. you have to be invited. It's the only way to do it. And once you're invited to become a VIP member, you log in with credentials, and you can access 50 to 60,000 hotels at much lower rates than you can find anywhere else. So that's the business we created. And we did it by figuring out a way to create something new that nobody else has done. We did our due diligence. People are looking for new ways to save. And we created a way to bring in a large number of consumers into this network. And so we're called a network behind the fence. It's a fence because consumers can't access it unless you have credentials. And nobody can get them. Of course, unless you know me, the president of the company. So anyone that contributes to YEHUDI, send me an email, bob@getaroom.com. I'm happy to make you a VIP member if you travel. But that's one way that we created a way for consumers to get a better deal. The other thing we did was we created what we call the unpublished rate program. So we take these rates, and if you go to our website, getaroom.com, it says call for better rate. So our deal with hotels is that we won't publish the lower rates, but people can call us and get them. So you can call our phone number, the phone number on the site, and ask if we have an unpublished rate at this hotel or I'm traveling to the city. And you can find 60,000 hotels at much better rates. So we created 2 new ways for consumers to get better deals in hotels. And that's all because we did our due diligence. It's working. We've been very successful with it. But it's all because we follow these principles. Be straightforward, disclose, be honest, have great customer service, do your due diligence, do your homework. So with that, I want to leave some time for Q&A, so happy to take questions. Yes?
You were saying that you have 120 million people using the newer site.
Yeah.
And by only
120 million members, they don't all use it.
Oh, okay. 120 million members.
Part of our goal is to get them to all use it.
Being generous to you.
That's okay.
How do you decide who to invite? And can they invite other people from there? Or does it have to come directly from the company itself?
A good question. So we partner with some other major, and you have credentials to log into your intranet. You have access to our program. And then we have an algorithm, so we look at your profile, and based upon your profile, it's a proprietary algorithm, we invite you to become a member. Our next phase is we're going to allow each member to invite 5 people into the program. And then you have to book within 3 months to stay in the program, or you get knocked out. That's how it works. Yes, question here.
Bob, reflecting upon your career as a whole, what would you say were the tipping points of your success? More specifically, what do you most attribute to you making your first 100,000, your next 500,000, your first million, your next 5 million? Were there individual moments of, relative?
So did you ever see the movie Blazing Saddles with Mel Brooks? Okay, you remember the posse? His posse just kept going around in a circle. And they kept going around and around and around. So most business people, they can't change behavior. Okay, there's a famous book called Move My Cheese. It's a whole series. If you haven't read it, read it. But basically, human psychology is that when you've used to doing things a certain way, most people have a very hard time changing their behavior. In a business setting, we are extremely analytic. I have a whole analytics department. Every single link we have on a site, every single keyword, everything is scrutinized and analyzed. We know what works, what doesn't work, instantly. And so we adapt to it immediately. And so we change. For example, when I started the hotel business, our first deals that we made were that hotels were going to pay us commission. Right? We booked, we negotiated good deals, we booked a lot of rooms, and then hotels are supposed to mail us the commission. Does anyone think we got paid? All these big brands, guess what? The bigger the brand, the worse they are about paying. Nobody paid us. So being a lawyer, I became a collection lawyer. I put on my letterhead, I had a form, dear so-and-so hotel, you're in debt for, you owe us so-and-so. If you don't respond within 14 days, we're going to go after you, etc. So basically, I was in the collection business. That was 90% of my time. I said, this doesn't work. So I changed the method. And I created what's called the merchant model for booking hotels. And that's the dominant model today. So how many people have booked hotels online? Okay, did you pay when you booked? You know why? Because hotels weren't paying us. There are two reasons. Number one, hotels weren't paying us. So we changed the model. And we collected up front from our customers. And then we paid the hotels. So we were instantly paid our commission. The other reason we did that was for good cash flow, because we were broke. That's why you book the way you book today. It became the adopted standard. Yes. So the bottom line is you have to innovate and move fast. Yes.
So I was wondering, when you came up with the idea for the site, how you handled the technical side of things, the actual programming. Did you have a technical background, or did you hire a technical team, and how did you go about doing that, making sure you did your due diligence and got it?
So I hired people. I have a partner who's in Dallas, and he's more the technical. I'm more the marketing and finance. And we hired a bunch of moonlighters from EDS. You want to hear of EDS? Ross Perot's company? Yeah. They're based in Dallas. They're brilliant programmers. So they would work there during the day. They worked for us at night. And they work from about 9 p.m. till 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't know, they sleep for a couple of hours and they go to their other job. But they're great. And we hired great programmers. And we developed, all of our software is proprietary. And we developed it all from scratch to exactly suit our business methods. So, but it's through a lot of, we have what's called site architects. So just like you build a home, anyone involved in building a home at all? Anybody involved in architecture? You go through extensive plans. We go through that type of analysis and diligence when we write a program. We have it all scripted out. We have testers. We have our programmers work here, and we have programmers in the Philippines that work the hours that we're not working. So, and they test. And it's a constant process and constant improvement in testing. But one of the keys to success, again, I learned this from Judaism, is that you have to constantly test yourself and constantly tear everything apart and ask yourself, is it working? Can we make it better? Is it good enough? You can't be static. You have to keep moving. I know there's some other hands back here. Yes?
So I know you're business to consumer website, right? But in order to grant, if I understand this correctly, in order to get access to that consumer, you had to have these corporations that are huge actually say, yes, we're going to release employee information or employee profiles. How did you work around that sort of red tape to get to? Because I know there's a lot of bureaucracy.
All right, so how do you get from A to Z?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the story. So when I first started, I had $600 in the bank. I started hotels.com with $600, and my partner put in $600. That's all we had. Okay? So we had to figure out a way, and no bank will loan us money because we were two nobodies. So yes, we had law degrees, from we both went to Cornell, good school, but that doesn't, that's very nice for getting your first job, but that's not good enough for a bank to loan you money. So we first realized that booking under commission model doesn't work. We created this merchant model, and so then we had to get hotels to give us credit. Who was going to give us credit? So I went to one hotel in New York, and I basically pleaded with this one hotel to give us credit. And he says, Bob, I'll tell you what. He says, you have no track record. Right? Usually if you get credit, they look at your credit report, and you have a history of credit. He says, I'll tell you what. I'll give you credit. I'll give you X number of dollars credit. You have to pay in 7 days. If your payment history is good for 2 months, I'll extend it. So that was our first hotel. We paid within 3 or 4 days. Made sure you received the check immediately. Within about 3 weeks, he moved terms to 30 days. I said, listen, do me a favor, can I use you as a reference? He says, sure, Bob, you're paying on time, much faster than any other client that we have. So I went to 20 other hotels and gave that one hotel as the reference. Then I had 21 hotels. A month later, I asked those 20 hotels if they'd act as references. Well, within a few months, we had thousands of hotels in cities. And I actually went. What I used to do is, I contracted every hotel myself in the early days of Hotels.com. I'd go to London for 3 days. I'd see 30 to 40 hotels a day. I'd walk out with a contract, every single one. And every single one granted us credit because I gave them great references. That's how we did it. So you have to be creative. You have to. People say, well, somebody asked me earlier, how do I get people to my site? Well, it's not going to work by buying ads on Google, because very few can afford to do that. You have to come up with something creative, something different. So I'll tell you the way I got people to our site. I listened to a radio show one day, and there was this guy on the show talking about his business. I said, this is great. How does he get on the radio? So I called the host. I said, so you have a guy talking about, it was a car dealer. I said, how about inviting me on to talk about hotels? I'll tell people how to save money. He says, it's a great idea. It just turned out that was a very big station, and I went to their sister station. That was the biggest talk radio in America. And I said, I'm on your sister station. Can I do this on your station? And he said, you're not going to try? I said, no, I'll do it for free. So I started going on the radio. So with Hotels.com, I was on radio and television 5 to 10 times a day. And it was all free. So then I decided, you know what, we really got to make this thing big. So I want to produce TV commercials. Right? Because at the time, people mainly watched TV. Right? The internet was still new when I was at Hotels.com. So I figured, how am I going to produce TV commercials in a creative way? First, I call in all these Madison Avenue firms. And I brought them all in at the same time. They're all sitting down, one after another. I feel that'd be a good way to lower the price. But still, they wanted $2 million, $500,000. I kicked them all out. And I decided to write, produce, direct, and act in my own commercials. So anyone that saw the original Hotels.com commercials, I filmed them in the Orange Bowl. And I had 2 people go to South Beach and hand out flyers. If you want to be in a national televised TV commercial, show up in the Orange Bowl at 6 a.m. and get a free lunch. At 6 a.m. in the Orange Bowl, you know how many people were there? Thousands. Okay? They signed a waiver, and they came in, they sat on one part of the stands, and we filmed our first commercials there. And it cost us, and Jerry Levine, I don't know if some of you know, he was our, I called him up and said, I need some help, I need you to film this. So Jerry filmed it for me. And we used, he says, Bob, you know, film's very expensive. I said, well, get me something that's not so expensive. He says, well, it's got a yellow tint to it. It's not going to look good. I said, no, it's perfect. So we produced our first commercials for about 1/100th the cost of what every other company in America was paying. And then we aired them on TV. And we would get so many comments about how horrible these commercials were. They're tinted yellow. Everybody was talking about them. It was the greatest thing. So I called Rick Morning, I called all these talk shows. And I said, would you like me to come on and talk about my commercials I wrote and produced and I'm in them? He said, you're in your own commercial? I said, yes. Well, come in and talk about it. So all the morning shows were running our commercials nonstop. That's how we did it at Hotels.com. We became, so I did it's called an awareness study. Those that are in marketing, I talked to some people in marketing, I think in Maryland. So this is a study that you do to determine if your marketing is effective. You do a baseline analysis. We did a baseline analysis of Hotels.com when I launched it, and nobody, it was under 20%. Nobody had ever heard of Hotels.com. In 9 months after I did the commercials, It was 82%. It was the fastest branding in American history. But that's how we did it on TV. We did it with a meager budget. But it's about being creative and doing it differently. So you have to try to find something that's different. And as I told a couple of people, start small. And if it works, expand it. That's the way we do it. I'll take one more question.
Okay. So, Bob, there's a little company called Airbnb.
Not so little.
And I think they've been hugely disruptive, obviously. And I think the demographic of this room would probably resonate more with Airbnb than they would a hotels.com or getaroom.com. Where do you see your industry in 15, 20 years from now when the millennials grow up and need places to stay? Is it still going to be relevant? Is it going to be disrupted altogether?
The question was, there's a small little company called Airbnb that's disruptive. Most people in this room would have no issue booking with them. What's going to happen 10, 20 years from now? So I can tell you that 10, 20 years from now, our lives and the way we use technology would be totally different. We're already looking at totally different ways to book hotel rooms. Okay? Because the way you do it today is going to be totally different. And we have over 50% now on mobile. We embraced mobile technology 5 years ago. Okay? People are going to book. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be on much smaller devices. The watch is going to be much bigger. It's going to be a totally different way. We're going to know everything about you when you book, so you're not going to see hotels you're not interested in. You're going to see what you're interested in. It's going to be totally different. We know that. So you have to adapt. When I started with when I built Hotels.com, people cared about what AAA said. Does anybody know what AAA? Does anybody here know that AAA is a rating standard for hotels?
Never heard of it. Anybody under 30?
Right?
I have AAA.
You have AAA, but did you know they rate hotels?
Yeah.
But very few people actually know that. Okay? Nobody cares about that anymore.
Don't they still give discounts?
Yeah, but you get a better deal and get a room back on. So, what people care about today is what everybody else is saying about the hotel. 10 to 1. Yeah, they'll look at a star type rating for the quality, but that's not what makes the decision. What makes the decision is who else is booking that hotel, right? So Cheryl and Alana and David and Joe, they all booked that hotel. That's where I'm staying because they booked it and they liked it. So that's the way people book hotels today, especially the market under 50. And the way people book tomorrow is going to be different. And Airbnb is just, yes, they're a disintermediator, but we already have a lot of product like that. We have condos, townhouses, communities of homes, but they're all professionally managed. And you can read what people say about it. So, and they're going more towards hotel type of product. So it's all going to get merged. And Airbnb will be another OTA like we are with time. All right, so I will take, since you're a rabbi, I'll give you the final question.
I wanted to see if I can pull.
No, only because you're a rabbi.
If I can pull privilege there. So I wanted to ask you one, since you said last question, I wanted to ask you an ultimate question.
Okay.
So, you know, Rabbi Stoneman created YEHUDI, and I joined YEHUDI because we want to inspire people to really think about what their lives are going to be like when they come home from work. After they get home from work, who are they going to be? That's really what we speak about often. And I wanted to share with you that there's an intense struggle nowadays, more than there was 10 years ago, that everyone is focused on career. Everyone is hyper-focused on career. And to suggest, even to go on a trip, or you know, there's so many opportunities for students now. If they want to go to yeshiva, it almost costs them nothing. They can go for a few months. They can take, but to get people to take a break and to take advantage of those opportunities is very, very difficult. The belief is, if I don't put 1,000% of my energy into how I'm going to make money, I will not make it in the world. And I just was wondering, I wanted to ask in front of them. I wanted to ask you, not knowing what you would say about this. I wanted to ask you in front of them, you know, what is a good reason for a person to take a risk, let's say, or is it a risk for them to develop their spiritual life and their life as an individual and as a Jew, as opposed to spending 1,000% of their time on career?
So let me answer that question by changing the question. Because you phrased the question, what do I do after I get home from my job or my career? And
Who am
that's-
I? Yeah. Who am I?
Right? So I'd like to ask the question differently. Because it makes no difference who you are in your job and who you are after the job. And that's really what my book is all about. Because character and your goals and who you are all the same. Your job is just a conduit. It's a path to get you towards a higher goal, to get you somewhere, right? It's a path so you get to an economic level where you can help your community, where you can help others. So, and I'll answer this. The question also is, how do you have the right balance? Right, so I sold my first, I was in the airline business. I sold my airline business. I did really well. I was 29. I moved to Miami. I was in New York. I'm originally from here, but I was living in New York. I moved back. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I sold my airline company for a lot of money. I had a great condo at I had a whole floor at the Carriage Club, or part of the floor, over the beach. I bought a beautiful car. Everything was great, right? Guess what? I felt totally empty. Something was missing. So what was missing? So if you take that approach, that all you care about is your career, you're going to end up, at some point, feeling totally empty and feel like you wasted a lot of your life. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue your career. You should. But you should do it with balance. And that's actually the last chapter of my book. It's about balance. And I talked a little bit about that formula, the question you're asked on your day of judgment, about how Judaism defines success and how Judaism evaluates your life, was actually 4 major questions that the Heavenly Court asks you. And I think if you think about these 4 questions as you go through your career, it'll help you have balance and to think about what's the right approach. So number 1 is are you honest in your business dealings? Whatever you do in your career, always think about that. Because I've had so many temptations along the way, and every time I'm tempted, I think about this. Right? I've had so many deals. I had a major deal in the Far East that I could have done. And it probably would have doubled the size of our company and net worth. I decided not to do it because I wasn't comfortable with the business principles of this company. So I decided not to acquire it. And people went ballistic on me. I just said, you know what? I'm not comfortable with this company. I'm not doing it. I did okay, regardless. Okay? So when you're at that fork in the road, pass up the opportunity and go the high road. That's number 1. Anybody know the second question asked in the Heavenly Court? I think I saw a hand back there somewhere.
Number Stillman knows it.
Number Stillman. What's the second question asked in the Heavenly Court? What are you going to be asked?
Did you donate to YEHUDI?
Did you take time from your day to learn?
Did you set time?
Okay? Did you set time aside to learn? For this, I had every Tuesday at 10 to 11, I shut my door. And I had somebody come in, a scholar, a rabbi, somebody come in, and I studied with them. Everybody know that from 10 to 11, don't bother Bob. He's busy. And that 1 hour of study gave me so much perspective on everything that I did. Because life is it's a continuous growth, right? You're going to continue to grow. And if you don't study, and you don't learn, it's very hard to grow as a person. So you want to set aside time for study. There's different ways to do it. There's lots of them. You can study with YEHUDI. You can study at, there's other places. There's great, so many opportunities to study. Yeah. But set aside a set time to study. What else? Anybody else? What the questions are?
Did your mom say to come in and do a shit, right? Is that what you
No.
He has one of them.
Kind of on the path, yes.
He wants to know the question.
Yes.
How do you start your day off every morning?
How do I start my day off?
Yeah.
I do yoga, and I end with thanking God for all the great things around me. That's how I do it every morning. But the next question asked is, did you raise a family and help the next generation with continuity? Right? So you can be so busy in your career that you never have time to meet anyone. You never have time to eventually have a family and grow and raise children and help them and help with education in the community. Right? Because if there's no continuity, what happens? It's over. And the fourth question is what several of you have mentioned and we talked about. Tikkun olam. What did you do today to make the world a better place? Did you give charity? Did you help someone? I think about this every day. Before I go home for the day, I want to try to do something good. Whatever it is. I can help one organization. I can help somebody that needs help. I try to do at least one mitzvah, one good deed every day. Because part of your life is not just pursuing, and you can do this through your career. That's my message. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great to be, and Judaism doesn't frown upon success. There's nothing, we're not an ascetic religion. Right? We like success, provided you use that success to help the community, to help those in need. Right? Because Judaism views it that if you're successful, then you're a steward to perform heavenly work. And then you know what? When you do Tikkun olam, you feel better about yourself. And when you're working those long hours in your career getting ahead, you feel you're doing it for a purpose. Right? It's not just getting a nicer car, but you're doing it for a purpose because you know with that success, you can help a lot of people and you can do a lot of things. So that's the message of balance. Were you honest in your business dealings along your way? Did you study? Did you put time aside to start thinking about a family? And did you do Tikkun olam? So those are the things, I believe that's the balance that all of you should think about as you move ahead in your career. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Thanks very much. It's great to be with you.